Revealed, the miraculous 40-day war in heaven. Divine secrets from the Ethiopian Bible uncovered. In the quaint village of Little Wexham, a whisper rippled through the air, a startling revelation that shook the very foundations of their faith. For Thomas, a devoted churchgoer, the news hit like a storm. His youngest daughter, Lily, was diagnosed with a terminal illness. The doctors offered little more than sorrowful glances and heavy words that crashed like thunder upon his heart. For a father, it was a pain unimaginable. As Lily's laughter faded and faint cries filled their home, despair clung to Thomas like a shroud, but in this darkness, a flicker of hope emerged. In the dim confines of his study, it happened. He stumbled upon ancient texts from the Ethiopian Bible, words that spoke of a miraculous 40-day war in heaven, a celestial battle that had been largely lost to the Western world. This was no ordinary scripture. As Thomas read of legions of angels clashing against dark forces, a warm light enveloped him, as if heaven itself beckoned him to rise. Could this be a divine calling? Fueled by renewed faith, Thomas shared his revelation with his pastor, who frowned with skepticism. Yet, Thomas's conviction ignited a fire within him. He began to gather the villagers nightly at the chapel, a sacred place where hearts and souls burned anew with fervent prayer. The air thickened around them, filled with the sweet scent of hope, as they lifted their voices like fragrant incense, trembling yet unwavering. Miraculous healings began to unfold, illnesses vanished like morning fog, and eyes once blind shared stories of angelic encounters. Whispers of faith echoed through Little Wexham, reigniting a spiritual fervor that had long faded. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Yet, as the warmth of unity spread, shadows of doubt crept into the hearts of some villagers. Disbelief began to cloud the miracles unfolding, and a dark force cast its pall over their fervency. Then came the storm, a disastrous flood that ravaged homes, sinking the community deeper into despair. Thomas felt the weight of his faith crushed under waves of uncertainty. Had he embraced a path from God, or had he led them astray? In this tempest, the lines of doubt tested their resolve. What does it mean to have faith? It was not merely about the act of prayer, but in their commitment to carry each other through trials, holding tight to each thread of hope. As they faced their struggles, they began to understand grace on a deeper level, each day shaping their faith into something more profound. With the 40th day approaching, anticipation danced in the air. Thomas kneeled in prayer, a tremor coursing through him, like a heartbeat echoing through the heavens. Would their prayers finally meet with divine response, or would they face yet another trial? Hope simmered in the air, something sacred was about to unfold, and he could feel it in his bones. As dawn broke on the 40th day, the village of Little Wexham awakened to a world transformed. The fresh scent of rain-soaked earth mingled with the soft chirping of birds that seemed heralding a new beginning. Thomas rose early, his heart a battleground of faith and fear. He could sense that today was different. The atmosphere crackled with divine energy, and he felt as if the very air was charged with anticipation. Thomas made his way to the chapel, where he found a small gathering of villagers lingering in prayer. Their faces reflected a mix of resolve and uncertainty. The shadows of doubt had shifted slightly in the gentle light, yet whispers still echoed on the edges of their spirits. As he took his place among them, he felt a warmth spread through the room, a subtle reminder of their shared mission, a rebirth of hope. As they began their prayers, the sound of their voices wove together like a tapestry, each thread of faith shimmering in the presence of the Almighty. Thomas closed his eyes, envisioning the celestial scene he had read about, the angels arrayed in combat, fighting fiercely against dark forces. He believed that if such a battle could be waged in heaven, surely, the power of God could work within their small chapel. What we seek today is not merely a sign, he urged, pouring out his heart. Our very souls ache for Lily and the lost among us. We ask for a miracle to believe that healing flows from above. His conviction stirred the hearts of those around him, igniting a flame that flickered and danced, drawing them all deeper into worship. Suddenly, a deep rumble reverberated through the chapel, sending a shiver down their spines. It felt like the echo of a bell tolling, signaling that something monumental was being set in motion, both inside and outside their sacred space. They exchanged tense glances, eyes wide with the impending possibility, a divine beckoning that pressed them closer together. Then, as if in answer to their fervent cries, a brilliant light pierced through the chapel's stained-glass windows, casting a heavenly glow on the hearts of the villagers. Gasps filled the air. Thomas could hardly comprehend what was happening. It was as though heavenly realms were breaking into their reality. The light seemed to thrum with life and hope, urging them to continue in faith. God is with us. Thomas couldn't help but proclaim, his voice rising above trembling hearts. He hears our prayers. In that moment of vulnerability, Lily's fragile spirit seemed to flicker at the edges of their gathering. Thomas felt a deep yearning in his soul. Would the healing that they sought find its way to her? Would their prayers transform their collective pain into something greater than themselves? As the light enveloped them, the villagers began to cry out in unison, their faith swelling like an ocean. Heal our daughter. Restore our joy. Bring forth the light. It was a chorus of desperation and hope, voices intertwined in a divine symphony that resonated. Yet, even amidst the outpouring of emotion, darkness loomed on the horizon of their hearts. Would they truly witness a miracle, or would they be met only with painful silence? The question lingered heavily in their minds, a divine mystery waiting to unfold. The clock ticked closer to the moment of anticipated response. Would heaven part the clouds and shower down its grace? Or were they mere mortals caught in the web of faith's uncertainties? Only time would reveal the unfolding of God's plan. And so, they prayed on, as shadows and light mingled in the sacred air around them, each heartbeat echoing a plea for divine intervention. The light in the chapel seemed to pulse around them, wrapping each villager in a warm and heavenly embrace. Thomas felt his heart race, each beat synchronizing with the prayers that surged around him. They were not just words, they were woven threads of divine aspiration that ascended to the heavens, each syllable a declaration of faith, each breath a testament to their unwavering hope. That he opened his eyes, drawn to the windows where the sunlight played with colors, transforming shadows into vibrant hues of gold and ruby. The stained-glass depictions of angels, saints, and biblical moments glimmered with life, as though each figure was alive, silently encouraging their desperate cries. Thomas's gaze fell to the floor where the radiant light danced. It was as if the very fabric of reality shimmered with possibility. Lily! Someone called out, disrupting the harmonious atmosphere. It was Mrs. Perkins, elderly and wise, yet filled with youthful fervor. Let us not forget her. We press onward, our cries will reach his ears. Her voice trembled but held a tenacity that reignited their collective spirit. Thomas felt a rush of hope, mingled with urgency. Yes. We stand in the gap for her, he called out, the concept resonating with the congregation. They began to shift, forming a circle around the altar, hands joined together, their breath becoming one. The fear that had encroached upon their hearts began to dissolve in the heat of their unity. But then, from the deepest recesses of the chapel, a silence prevailed. It was monumental, punctuated by the muffled sounds of hearts beating in anxious anticipation. The villagers fell still, the air thick with the weight of their hopes and fears. Time seemed suspended in that divine divide between their present sorrow and the miracles they sought. Can we truly believe? A soft voice broke through, a whisper of doubt that managed to touch Thomas's ears. It was young Sarah, her wide eyes betraying an innocence aching for validation. The young girl had grown up witnessing the frailty of life, had felt the sting of grief when loss flared within their community. How could any of them dare to hope? But like a spark igniting dry hay, the room erupted in mixed voices of affirmation and challenge. We must believe, echoed Piercy, a stout man with calloused hands yet a childlike heart. When we wield our faith together, mountains move. Thomas felt the tremor in the air shift ever so slightly. It struck him that doubt and faith coexisted within him now, like two dancers turning on the stage of his soul. He realized this struggle between belief and skepticism was not something to be ashamed of. It was part of the sacred journey. Suddenly, as if sensing their inner conflict, the brilliant light intensified. The chapel buzzed with energy, an electric pulse that seemed to resonate with every prayer, every whispered plea. The sacred space felt like a movie screen alive with vibrant color and sound, reflecting the chaos of their spirits intertwined in hope and fear. "Lord, we call upon your name." Thomas shouted again, the weight of his prayer swelling with the shared belief of the crowd. "Grant us the vision to see your hand at work, to feel your presence amongst us, even in this liminal space." In that moment, the shadows danced again, but this time with a potent urgency. Silence fell away as the villagers exhaled in unison, surrendering their fears into the light, offering them as sacrifices on the altar of hope. Their prayers were powerful, rising like incense, calling down the divine. Yet, what lay ahead remained a mere shadow, a mystery unfolding in God's perfect timing. Was this the day they would see a shift? Would they witness the heavens respond in kind? As they stood united, wrapped in faith, a lingering sense of awe settled over them. The air crackled with an otherworldly energy. Something was coming, but what would it be? Tears of joy mingled with whispers of worry, and all they could do was wait and trust, but little did they know, the answer was closer than they had imagined. The tension in the chapel hung like heavy mist as the villagers stood in their sacred circle, unified under the shimmering glow of faith. Thomas could feel an escalating pulse beneath his skin, a heartbeat of hope that grew stronger with every fervent prayer. The air felt thick, charged with anticipation, as if the heavens themselves were listening closely, preparing to intervene. Suddenly, a gust of wind swept through the chapel, causing the doors to rattle gently. It was as if a divine breath had entered the space, stirring renewed passion and igniting a chorus of whispers among the villagers. Their hearts quickened, and Thomas felt something shift, a divine invitation, perhaps to lean deeper into their collective longing. "God is here," Mrs. Perkins declared with the wisdom of a woman seasoned by faith. "He has heard us. Our cries have not fallen on deaf ears." Her voice rang like a bell, clear and authoritative, summoning the villagers to belief. Yet, doubt still hovered around the edges like a timid shadow. Young Sarah looked up at Thomas, her eyes glistening with tears. "But how?" she whispered, her innocence piercing through the fervor. It was a question left hanging, vulnerable and exposed, filled with a sincerity that struck a chord in every heart. In that moment, Thomas was reminded of the stories woven into the fabric of their community, stories of divine encounters, miracles blooming in the bleakest of places, and the unimaginable becoming real. "It is through our faith that we see." He raised his voice, emboldened by the Spirit moving among them. "Through every prayer, every act of love, we usher in the miraculous." As he spoke, the chapel seemed to brighten even more, and the admiration in Sarah's eyes reflected a spark of understanding. Faith was a bridge, he realized, a bridge built on prayer, experience, and the courage to step into the unknown together. Then, without warning, a flicker of light burst forth from the altar, momentarily blinding the congregation. Gasps punctuated the stillness as their collective breath caught in their throats. Thomas shielded his eyes, looking toward the radiant glow as it began to take a magnificent form. The outlines of figures emerged, shimmering like the dawn breaking through a night of despair. "Fear not." A commanding voice echoed through the chapel, reverberating off the stone walls, wrapping every heart in a blanket of peace. It was not just any voice, it was the voice that spoke across the ages, touching the deepest parts of their souls. The figures of angels, ethereal and resplendent, filled the air, their wings creating a cascade of light that danced above them. Thomas felt his heart swell with overwhelming joy and reverence. This was a glimpse of something magnificent, a reminder that while they stood in the valley of uncertainty, heaven was at work, orchestrating the unseen. One angel stepped forward, radiant and loving, the embodiment of hope. "Your cries have been heard, your faith has made the way." There was a promise in those words, a sacred reassurance that struck Thomas deeply. He longed to press into this moment, wanting to know what would unfold next. As the villagers trembled with awe, the angel continued, "Be ready. The days ahead will challenge your spirit, but remember the miracle unfolds in the waiting. A hush fell over the crowd, each person caught in the tension of the waiting, a profound stillness mixed with an electrifying possibility. They were on the brink of something. What would happen next? The angel's presence shone bright, illuminating their path, yet still, a mystery lingered in the air. Thomas could sense it, he could feel the weight of what was to come. What kind of challenges would they face? Could they truly hold on to this glimmer of hope when shadows of doubt returned? As the light began to wane, and the celestial figures faded from view, Thomas knew they had crossed a threshold of faith. The promise was set, they would witness miracles, but only if they remained steadfast in their beliefs. They were not just a community, they were a force of heaven. Meeting earth, standing resilient against the tides of despair. What divine encounters awaited them in the days ahead? What would it take to fully embrace the calling of hope? Only time would unfold the answers. As the last glints of light faded from the altar, a profound silence enveloped the chapel. Thomas felt the warmth of faith pulsing in his heart, yet uncertainty loomed like a distant storm cloud. The villagers stood, breathless, as if the very air held its breath with them. What revelations lay ahead? The first to break the silence was Old Man Hutchins, whose rough hands were intertwined in prayerful submission. "If the angels are with us," he murmured, "we must prepare our hearts." The waiting is not merely passive, it is an active anticipation. His voice trembled with the weight of his years, steeped in wisdom that could only be forged through trials. "I," echoed Mrs. Perkins, still radiant from the encounter. "Let us not falter now. The light we have witnessed demands a response." She raised her hands, inviting the congregation into a shared commitment, a sacred pact among them all. With each healing word, hope was rekindled, igniting sparks of courage in the hearts around her. The villagers exchanged knowing glances, hearts uniting in the divine promise of tomorrow. But amidst the rising fervor, doubt still whispered a faint reminder of the challenges that lay ahead. Just as Thomas began to feel the shift towards joyful assurance, young Sarah approached him again, hesitating as she clutched her hands to her chest. "What if the trials we face," she began, and her voice wavered, "what if the waiting becomes too hard?" At that moment, Thomas understood the essence of her question. It resonated with the uncertainty buried deep in each of their souls. "Sarah," he replied softly, kneeling to meet her gaze, "the waiting isn't just about time passing. It's a growing season for our faith." He recalled the seasons of planting seeds, where darkness enveloped the earth before blossoming sprang forth. We must nurture our belief, even when we cannot see the fruits yet. The good God is tending to us, even unseen. The reminder brought a certain peace that rippled through those who listened. The apprehensive glances began to fade, as hope began to fill their spaces. "Listen," Thomas continued, feeling the Spirit swell within him. "Every miracle we hope for is accompanied by a lesson. We are about to embark on a journey that requires both our strength and our surrender." "I feel it too, Thomas," announced a voice from the back. It was Jonathan, the youngest in their community but filled with a fiery spirit. "But how do we keep our eyes on the light when darkness tries to blind us?" "Ah, dear Jonathan," Mrs. Perkins replied with gentleness, "like stars shine brightest in the darkest nights. We must focus on what we hear and see in faith, not by what our eyes might say." Thomas nodded, a smile breaking across his face. "Let us keep reminding ourselves of the extraordinary we've already witnessed. Grace is unfolding in our midst." The villagers shared their testimonies, recalling instances when faith had carried them through deep valleys. Laughter mingled with tears, each story a glint of light piercing the shadows. God's power could be felt among them, flowing and weaving a tapestry of assurance and community, but as they spoke, Thomas sensed an undercurrent, a quiet stirring, like the wings of angels preparing for another flight. He felt it nudging at the edges of his spirit, an unspoken truth waiting for the right moment to unveil itself. Suddenly, the chapel doors swung open with a creaking groan, sending a chill rippling through the room. A figure stood silhouetted by the twilight beyond, cloaked in the gathering night. Thomas felt his breath hitch. Was this another sign, or perhaps a visitor bearing news? the air thickened with suspense as the villagers turned toward the doorway, anticipation electrifying the atmosphere. Was this the next chapter of their divine calling? What was the message that awaited them at the threshold of the unknown? Only time would reveal the divine tapestry being woven before their eyes. The figures stepped cautiously into the chapel, the soft light from inside casting an ethereal glow around them. Thomas squinted, trying to capture the features of the visitor. As the shadow moved closer, he was met with the bright eyes of an elderly woman he hadn't seen in years, Granny Elsbeth. Her silver hair flowed like a gentle river over her shoulders, and her voice, though frail, carried an undeniable strength. "Believers," she called, her words ringing like bells. "I bring a message." A wave of recognition swept through the villagers. Elsbeth was known for her deep, steadfast faith and her tales of divine encounters, which had inspired many in their small community. She continued, "I was praying on the hills these last days. The angels spoke to me. They told me a great challenge is upon us, but do not fear, for it is a path leading to wondrous things." Her eyes sparkled with conviction, drawing the attention of every soul present. Much like the Israelites faced trials in the wilderness, we too are on a journey of heart and spirit, she proclaimed, the atmosphere shifting with every syllable she spoke. We must remember that the waiting period, as Thomas said, is not wasted. It is a sacred time of preparation. The villagers leaned in closer, captivated. Each heart beat with anticipation, as if they could feel the pulse of destiny in their very veins. "The challenge will last 40 days, she continued, and whispers erupted among the crowd. Elsbeth held up her hands to quiet them. "During these days, we will be tested. Our faith will be stretched, but so will our hope. We'll need each other, and the angels will guide us if we remain vigilant." 40 days. Jonathan echoed, sensing the weight of the promise and the pressure of the trial ahead. "How do we face what we cannot see?" Granny Elsbeth smiled gently, "With unity and love. When the storm rages, it is our bonds that will keep us grounded. You must share your burdens, pray together, and seek the light in each other." Thomas felt a warmth surging in the room, growing with each word of Elsbeth's. It was a reminder that in moments of doubt and darkness, community was their anchor. "We cannot turn to fear," he said, looking at his fellow villagers. "We must rise together, hand in hand, as warriors of faith." The crowd murmured in agreement, an urgency in their hearts. "But what if the darkness feels overwhelming?" Sarah questioned again, a hint of worry lacing her voice. "The dawn always comes after the darkest hour," Granny Elsbeth replied, her voice soothing. "During these 40 days, each of you must find your light. Pray, dream, and write your visions down. The angels will whisper wisdom to those who listen. And remember, it's okay to stumble. Even the strongest among us have walked in shadow. But together, we shall rise." The room glimmered with renewed hope as they absorbed her words. They began to chant softly, a chorus of determination rising into the rafters above. Yet, through this flood of warmth and promise, a new chill sliced through the atmosphere. Thomas felt the edges of his mind flicker with unease. What if the waiting led to trials he had not foreseen? As they sang, the heaviness of his heart remained, mingling with the ache of uncertainty. Granny Elsbeth's eyes turned serious as they locked onto Thomas. "Fear not the trials to come, dear child. Your faith will be your shield, and the lessons learned will become armor for your spirit. Embrace the path ahead with courage. The light is near, and victory awaits." As the villagers raised their voices in a powerful declaration of faith, the whispers of the heavenly unknown loomed close. Could they truly withstand the challenges ahead? What miraculous encounters awaited their journey? In the glowing embrace of faith, they stood on the brink of a transformative experience, and each heart knew their time of testing was just beginning. What hidden revelations would emerge from their trials over the next 40 days? Only the divine held the key to their unfolding story. The sun sank low in the sky, painting the village in hues of orange and gold. The light danced through the chapel windows, illuminating the faces of the villagers, filled with resolve and uncertainty all at once. As night began to cloak the earth, Granny Elsbeth stood firm at the altar, an embodiment of peace amidst the brewing storms. Tonight, she declared with a voice that teetered between comforting and commanding, "We shall begin our first prayer circle. Let us commit to this journey together." The villagers gathered closer, forming a circle that intertwined their hands. The flickering candles cast shadows that moved like whispers in the dark. Each heart began to pulse with the rhythm of anticipation and trust. New voices entered the song of hope, softly now, as they began to pray for guidance and clarity. "Dear Lord," Thomas started, his voice steady but heartfelt, "we ask for strength and unity. Help us to hold each other up as we walk through this challenge. May our faith burn brighter than any darkness. Amen." Echoed through the room, merging into the night like a celestial harmony. Granny Elsbeth nodded, her expression a soft glow of approval. "As we embark on this 40-day journey, remember that your prayers are your map. Seek God in every crevice of your life. He whispers in the still, small moments. Never underestimate the power of faith." As hours passed, voices melded into one, creating a sacred space where hope was tangible. Laughter, stories, and confessions punctuated their gathering, puncturing holes in the darkness that loomed ahead. They shared vulnerabilities as they shared laughter, burdens lifted and hearts resonated together, each note harmonizing with divine potential. "What if," Jonathan pondered aloud, breaking a quiet moment, "we find a way to mentor one another during this time? Let us divide into pairs, share our struggles, and uplift the spirits of one another." A murmur of agreement rippled through the group, confidence swelling as they prepared to strengthen their bonds. An outline of hope emerged. This would not just be Thomas and Sarah's path, nor just Granny Elsbeth's. It was a collective journey, woven through shared stories and mutual faith. "But we must remain vigilant," Granny Elsbeth reminded, her eyes sharp under the weight of her words. "The trials will seek to divide us. Hold tight to your connections. You never know where wisdom may come from, or whose heart may hold the key to your burdens." As the night deepened, one by one, the villagers shared their fears, their burdens, and, with each confession, a burden lifted from them. The rich tapestry of their community shone brightly, illuminating the way ahead as the divine's presence enveloped them. Yet, as they spoke, a flicker of doubt remained. Thomas could feel it swirling around him like a shadow. The unknown still lingered, cool and beckoning. What awaited them as the days turned? Would they find strength in each other, or would the challenges prove too great? In that moment of connection, amid sighs and deepened prayers, he sensed something stirring, an urge to understand their collective destiny. Something grand awaited, he felt it in his very bones, a promise beckoning them forward. But the true test, he pondered silently, would depend on their commitment to unity in times of struggle. Would their connections hold true, tomorrow, as dawn broke over their sacred journey? Would the light reveal their path or cast shadows that haunted their dreams? What unforeseen revelations and encounters awaited them during the first day of their trial? Only time and faith would tell. As dawn stretched its golden fingers across the village, a gentle warmth enveloped the earth. Thomas awoke with a flickering flame of hope riding in his heart. The heavens above seemed to whisper promises, urging him to rise and embrace the day. He knew this was not just any day, it was the beginning of something profound. Today marked the first step into the unknown, but the thread of unity lay firmly woven through the hearts of his fellow villagers. In the early light, the chapel appeared transformed, sacred and alive, with hints of yesterday's prayers still lingering in the air. The gentle chime of the bell echoed through the village, calling the faithful to gather once again. As Thomas made his way over to the chapel, he could hear the soft melody of conversations flowing like a stream through the village square. "Good morning, Thomas," a cheerful voice called. It was Sarah, her eyes alight with excitement. "Are you ready for today?" He smiled back, the warmth of her spirit igniting his confidence. "Ready as I'll ever be. Let us see what the Lord has in store for us." As they entered the chapel together, the villagers were already assembling, their spirits buoyed by the shared commitment forged the previous night. Granny Elsbeth stood at the front, a beacon of steady wisdom, holding an open Bible in her hands. The light filtering through the stained glass cast vibrant colors, illuminating her determined face. "Today, we begin with reflection and openness," Granny Elsbeth instructed, her words filled with love and encouragement. "Each one of you carries a piece of the puzzle. With every prayer, we invite divine guidance not only upon ourselves but upon each other. Together, we will discern his paths." There was a palpable sense of anticipation in the air as villagers began pairing up, sharing their hopes and fears. Thomas felt a gentle nudge to pair with Jonathan, the very man who had sparked the idea of mentorship. With sincere hearts, they settled into a quiet corner of the chapel, their hands clasped together. "Today, let's each share what weighs heavy on our hearts," Jonathan proposed thoughtfully. There was something earnest in his eyes, something that stirred a deeper connection. "I'll go first." With sincerity, Jonathan spoke of his fears, the doubt that occasionally clouded his faith, the feeling of inadequacy in facing the world's challenges. His words hung like a fragile prayer in the air. Thomas listened intently, feeling every weighty word resonate within him as if it echoed his own hidden struggles. "I worry," Thomas finally said after a contemplative pause, "that my faith isn't strong enough. What if when the challenges come, my courage falters?" Jonathan's grip tightened, a gesture of solidarity. "Together, we will conquer those doubts. The Lord's strength is made perfect in our weakness." We must lean on each other. As they shared their thoughts, an unexpected peace washed over them. It was as though their vulnerabilities were not just weaknesses but gateways to shared strength. Around them, the chapel buzzed with similar exchanges, each heartfelt confession sealing hearts closer in unity. Then, Granny Elsbeth's voice broke through the gentle murmur. "Let us remember," she began, her tone carrying a depth of spirit, "that God is preparing us for divine revelations. Hold these moments close, our shared burdens will be lightened as we lift each other in prayer." There was a pause, a sacred stillness settling over the group, allowing the weight of her words to permeate their hearts. Thomas looked around, witnesses of grace filling the space, realizing they were not alone in their struggles. The sun rose higher, illuminating their faces with hope. As they began to pray, something stirred deep within Thomas, a flicker of anticipation mingled with awe. Could today be the day they would receive that promised revelation? Would heaven open its doors and guide them like never before? As the final "Amen" echoed, a sudden wind swept through the chapel, stirring the air. What was that? In that moment, Thomas felt a connection to something vast and beautiful, a gentle reminder of the divine presence that lingered just beyond their sight. Collectively, they held their breath, hearts poised on the cusp of the miraculous. Would this unexpected breeze unveil a hidden celestial message, or lead them down an unseen path of trials? What other wonders awaited them in this journey of devotion, transformation, and sacred discovery? As the day unfolded, they were about to find out. The breeze lingered for a moment, creating a hush that enveloped the chapel, as if all of nature paused to listen. The villagers exchanged glances, delight and intrigue twinkling in their eyes. Thomas could feel an energy in the air, an expectancy that made his heart race. What was God planning for them that day? As the hum of quiet anticipation faded, Granny Elsbeth raised her hands, her voice steady and calm. "Let us open our hearts to the message God has for us. Let us be still and listen." The silence deepened, a palpable presence wrapping around them, like a warm blanket of peace. Thomas closed his eyes, focusing on his breath. In that stillness, it felt as if God were inviting them to journey deeper, to learn, to grow in spiritual strength. "Remember the story of the loaves and fishes," Jonathan whispered to Thomas. "Small offerings can lead to abundant blessings." The reminder struck a chord within him. Yes. Their fears, their doubts, they could be transformed into gifts of faith. Little by little, they could be nourished, multiplied in the hands of the Almighty. Suddenly, a vibrant light glimmered through the stained glass, illuminating the room with a kaleidoscope of colors. The villagers gasped in collective awe, blinking against the radiant display. Thomas felt warmth flooding his heart, as if a divine hand were resting on his chest, encouraging him to embrace this moment. "Let us break into groups," Granny Elsbeth suggested, her eyes shining. "We will take turns voicing our thoughts, but today, we will do it differently. Share what you want to give to God, the burdens, the fears you wish to let go of, and also what you hope to receive." Nods of understanding rippled through the congregation as they shifted into circles. Thomas turned toward Jonathan again, the urge to share bubbling up within him. "I want to give my fear of failing, and I hope to receive clarity, to know my purpose." Jonathan smiled warmly. "Let us pray together." They bowed their heads, voices intertwining in a harmonious blend of cries for divine assistance. Thomas could feel each word thickening the atmosphere, solidifying a bond of faith, creating a living effusion of hope. As he prayed, the imagery of loaves and fishes echoed in his heart, evoking a sense of service, a understanding that even the smallest acts could create profound differences. "Lord, use my weaknesses. Make them vessels of strength." Around him, prayers swirled joyfully, each one an act of surrender, a key unlocking doors to divine connection. He decided, from this moment on, he wouldn't allow fear to define him. Instead, he would embrace faith, awakening the menacing shadows with confidence and love. The prayer circles continued, voices rising and falling, punctuated by gentle sobs of release as burdens were lifted. The spirit of communion filled the space, infusing each heart with renewed vigor. Emotions ran high, laughter intertwined with tears, as healing words flowed like gentle streams over rocky shores. Suddenly, the light shifted again, casting a brilliant glow over the chapel's altar. An awe-inspiring presence seemed to touch each individual. It was as though heaven had opened, and an angelic whisper filled the air, cradling hearts tenderly. "Trust in the process," it seemed to say. "You are being prepared for something greater than you can imagine." As the day began to unfold beyond their sacred space, Thomas felt a chorus of anticipation rising within him. What had been ignited here in prayer was only the beginning. The divine had touched their hearts, imparting a promise of revelation. He looked out at the healing faces around him, filling with wonder at how they were all meant to walk this journey together. Each had their role. Their unity was evolving into something much more than a collection of individuals. But what awaited them on this mysterious journey? What purpose was being forged in the fires of their faith? As the sun settled in the sky, he couldn't help but wonder about the message that would soon become clear. The dawn of the last day of their miraculous journey finally broke over Little Wexham, illuminating the village in a warm golden embrace. Thomas awoke with a heart ablaze, aware that time had drawn near for the final revelation. The trials had tested their faith, but the unity forged in the fires of intimacy had become an unwavering foundation. As he made his way to the chapel, he inhaled the freshness of the morning, a reminder of the renewal that faith could usher into the world. The villagers began to gather, their faces reflecting a mix of excitement and trepidation. Granny Elsbeth stood at the front, her eyes shining with expectation. "Today," she announced, "we are not just concluding our journey, we are unleashing a new chapter filled with divine purpose." The air crackled with divine energy, a palpable reminder that the heart of their community would never be the same. Thomas took his place among the villagers, feeling as though every heartbeat pulsed in rhythm with the prayers they had waged over the past 40 days. "What if today we share one final prayer for clarity?" he suggested, his voice strong and steady. Heads nodded, and they formed a close circle, hands intertwined, hearts opened. As one voice, they began to call upon the heavens, tears flowing freely and hands raised in supplication. "Lord," Thomas intoned, "we ask for understanding of the path ahead. Let us see the beauty in our struggles, the grace in our trials." Their voices harmonized, intertwining in a symphony of faith that resonated deep within their souls. Suddenly, a wind swept through the chapel, stirring their spirits and sending shivers down their spines. Almost instinctively, they drew closer together. It felt as if the heavens had descended to earth, enveloping them in a sacred embrace. Then, as if from a distance, they heard a gentle, melodic sound, like a bell ringing in the throes of eternity. The light intensified, and as they opened their eyes, radiant figures emerged from the light. Angels, magnificent and ethereal, surrounded them, woven into the fabric of their reality. Thomas felt a wave of peace wash over him, illuminating paths of hope. "Believers of Little Wexham, your faith has called us," one angel proclaimed, their voice resonating like a chorus of the heavens. "You have weathered the storms, faced daunting trials, and held fast to each other. Today, the Father wishes to bless you abundantly. He has seen your hearts, and the healing you sought is already at hand." Silence hung in the air, permeated by awe and wonder. Then, as the villagers held their breath, the angel continued, "You are not merely recipients of a miracle but vessels of transformation. Through your prayers and the love you've shared, your pain has been turned to purpose." Tears streamed down Thomas's cheeks, a mixture of gratitude and relief flooding his heart. He grasped tightly to Jonathan's hand, who was equally moved, wide-eyed in expression. "What does it mean, Lord?" Thomas whispered, feeling an unshakable assurance swell within him. "Each of you carries a light within," the angel answered, their wings shimmering like sunlight upon water, a light meant to guide others. "Use your testimony, share the miracles born in your trials. Let love be your weapon as you combat the darkness in this world." In that potent moment, glimpses of the unseen unfolded before their eyes, families restored, hearts healed, and souls redeemed. The weight of lament transformed into a tapestry brighter than any they had known before. Their journey had planted seeds of faith, and now they would bear fruit not just within their village, but beyond, touching lives far and wide. With hearts ignited and spirits soaring, the villagers broke into joyful celebration, a harmonious chorus of praises rising toward the heavens. They understood their calling now to be reflections of divine love and hope, uniting to weave a narrative of faith that transcended their small community. As the last thread of the miraculous encounter faded into the morning light, Thomas felt a shift within him. "Yes, we will carry this light. Lord. We will embody the healing, the love, and the unity you have bestowed upon us." He turned to the villagers, who shared in the joy and embraced the exhilarating responsibility ahead. This chapter had concluded, yet the book of their lives was just beginning. Thomas looked out at the faces he had come to love deeply, recognizing that this was their time. Their collective journey would be transformative, written in the hearts of many who had yet to experience the power of faith. The air felt electric, filled with anticipation of the extraordinary adventures to come. "Let us go out," Thomas shouted with fervor. "Let us share this beautiful light with the world. Let us not wait, let us begin right now." And as they stepped out of that sacred chapel and into the light of a new dawn, the villagers of Little Wexham knew one thing for certain: they would face any challenge together, united in faith, igniting the colors of hope in a world that desperately needed it. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive faith stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, it truly helps more than you know. Comment your reactions and testimonies about this ending, letting your voices resonate. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this manifestation of faith. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second. Only true servants of God understand the importance of lifting each other up.